Is this news true? According to May source, let me hope it's true. Football fans, brace yourselves. In an absolutely earth-shattering revelation, FIFA has officially ordered the UEFA Europa League final to be replayed after uncovering overwhelming evidence of match fixing. Sources confirm referees were influenced, betting markets were tampered with, and outside forces manipulated the match from the shadows. FIFA has declared the result invalid and called this scandal unprecedented in modern football history. This is the first time a European final will be replayed due to corruption, and it's sending shockwaves across the globe. As fans demand justice and investigations deepen, the sport's reputation is hanging by a thread. The beautiful game in crisis, when football's biggest stage becomes its darkest hour. Picture this: you're sitting in your favorite chair, watching what you believe is a fair contest between Europe's finest football clubs. The players are giving their all, the crowd is electric, and history is being made. But what if everything you just witnessed was nothing more than an elaborate lie? What if the very integrity of the sport we love has been compromised at its highest level? The football world is reeling from shocking revelations that have sent tremors through every corner of the beautiful game. Recent developments surrounding the Europa League final have raised questions that strike at the heart of what we believe about fair competition, sporting integrity, and the trust millions of fans place in the game they adore. When the unthinkable becomes reality. Football fans have always known that controversy exists in the sport. We've seen questionable referee decisions, heated debates about VAR calls, and endless discussions about whether that goal should have counted. But what we're dealing with now goes far beyond the usual post-match arguments in your local pub. Reports have emerged suggesting that FIFA, football's governing body, has taken the unprecedented step of ordering a Europa League final to be replayed. Why would such a drastic measure be necessary? The allegations are as serious as they are shocking, match-fixing on a scale that has left even seasoned football administrators stunned. Think about what this means for a moment. We're not talking about a minor league game or a friendly match. This involves one of Europe's premier tournaments, watched by millions of people around the world, with clubs that have spent decades building their reputations and legacies. The web of corruption, how deep does it go? The allegations paint a picture of systematic corruption that would make even the most cynical football fans' jaw drop. According to these reports, the manipulation wasn't limited to just one area of the game. Instead, it appears to have been a coordinated effort involving multiple aspects of match control. Referee influence: the officials we trust to make fair and impartial decisions may have been compromised. These are the people we expect to uphold the rules of the game, regardless of pressure from players, coaches, or external forces. If referees can be influenced, what does that say about the integrity of any match? Betting market tampering: the modern football landscape is closely tied to betting markets, with millions of pounds changing hands on every major match. When these markets are manipulated, it's not just about the game itself, it's about the trust that people place in the system when they make their predictions and place their bets. External manipulation: perhaps most concerning of all, other suggestions that outside forces worked from the shadows to control the outcome. This raises questions about who really has power in modern football and whether the matches we watch are genuine competitions or predetermined spectacles. But here's the question that should keep every football fan awake at night: if this level of corruption can happen in a major European final, what about all the other matches we've watched? How many results that we celebrated or mourned were actually decided before the players even stepped onto the pitch? Manchester United, caught in the crossfire. While these corruption allegations swirl around European football, individual clubs and managers are trying to navigate the fallout. Manchester United, one of the world's most famous football clubs, finds itself dealing with its own set of challenges in this chaotic environment. Ruben Amorim, the Portuguese manager who took charge of United, represents the modern approach to football management. His appointment was seen as part of a long-term strategy to rebuild the club's fortunes and return them to their former glory. But even the best-laid plans can be disrupted when the entire football world is in turmoil. The reported 1-0 loss to Tottenham in the Europa League final would normally be analysed through the lens of tactical decisions, player performances, and key moments in the match. But when allegations of match-fixing surround the competition, everything becomes more complicated. Was it really a fair contest? Did the better team win on the day? These are questions that fans shouldn't have to ask, but circumstances have made them unavoidable. What's particularly interesting about Amorim's situation is his reported response to the pressure. According to sources, he made it clear that he would step down immediately if the club's leadership or supporters lost confidence in his abilities. This kind of accountability is refreshing in an era where many public figures try to cling to their positions regardless of circumstances. If the board and the fans feel I'm not the right guy, I will go in the next day without any conversation about compensation, he reportedly said. These words show a level of personal integrity that stands in stark contrast to the corruption allegations swirling around the sport. The ripple effect, what this means for football's future. The implications of these developments extend far beyond a single match or tournament. When the integrity of elite-level football is questioned, it affects everyone connected to the sport. For players, imagine training for years, sacrificing personal relationships and financial security, only to discover that your success or failure might be determined by forces completely outside your control. How do you motivate yourself to give everything when you don't know if the game is fair? For fans, football supporters invest enormous amounts of time, money, and emotional energy into following their teams. They buy season tickets, travel across continents, and organize their weekends around match schedules. What happens to that loyalty when they can't trust that what they're watching is genuine? For clubs, football clubs are businesses, but they're also community institutions with histories stretching back over a century. Their reputations and financial value are built on sporting success and fan loyalty. When the competitions they participate in are compromised, everything they've worked to build is at risk. For the sport itself, football's appeal comes from its unpredictability and the belief that anything can happen on any given day. If results are predetermined, does the sport lose its fundamental appeal? The technology question, can innovation save football's soul? In recent years, football has embraced technology to improve decision-making. VAR systems review controversial moments, goal line technology eliminates disputes about whether the ball crossed the line, and sophisticated tracking systems monitor every aspect of player performance. The goal that shook football, when VAR gets it wrong on the biggest stage. Picture this, millions of fans around the world watching the Europa League final, hearts pounding as the referee points to the center circle, confirming the only goal of the match. Players celebrate, fans erupt, and history is made. But what happens when that moment of glory is built on a mistake that officials later admit should never have stood? The 2025 UEFA Europa League final has become the center of a storm that's rocking the football world. What should have been a celebration of sporting excellence has turned into a heated debate about fairness, technology, and the human element in modern football. The question everyone's asking isn't just about one goal, it's about the entire system we've built to ensure fair play. The match that changed everything. The Europa League final between Tottenham Hotspur and Man United was supposed to be a showcase of English football at its finest. Two historic clubs, each desperate for European glory, facing off in what many expected to be a thrilling encounter. Instead, the match will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. The decisive moment came when Luke Shaw, in a cruel twist of fate, deflected the ball into his own net. Manchester United fans watched in horror as their defender's unfortunate touch handed their rivals the trophy. But the real controversy wasn't the own goal itself, it was what happened in the build-up. Brennan Johnson, the Tottenham winger, was clearly positioned offside when the move began. More importantly, he appeared to interfere with play in a way that directly contributed to Shaw's fateful deflection. In the modern game, this should have been a straightforward decision for the video assistant referee system. The technology was designed precisely for these moments, to catch the errors that human eyes might miss in real time. When technology fails us, here's where the story takes an even more troubling turn. The VAR officials, who are supposed to be the safety net for crucial decisions, have since admitted they made a significant error. They allowed the goal to stand when, by the letter of the law, it should have been ruled out for offside interference. This admission raises uncomfortable questions about the reliability of the system millions of fans have been told to trust. How does a team of trained officials, with access to multiple camera angles and the ability to review footage repeatedly, get such a crucial decision wrong? Was it a simple human error, or does this expose deeper flaws in how VAR operates? The timing couldn't be worse. European finals are watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. These matches often define careers, shape legacies, and determine which clubs will be remembered in football history. When the system fails at this level, it doesn't just affect the teams involved, it undermines confidence in the entire sport. The human cost of errors. Behind the statistics and technical discussions are real people whose lives have been changed by this mistake. Luke Shaw, already devastated by scoring an own goal in a major final, now has to live with the knowledge that his team may have been robbed of a fair chance to defend properly. The Manchester United players who gave everything in that match deserve to know that the officials got the big decisions right. Ruben Amorim, Manchester United's manager, has every right to feel furious. Imagine preparing your team for months, reaching a major final, and then watching it slip away due to an error that officials later acknowledge. The Portuguese coach's anger isn't just about one match, it's about the principle of fair competition that lies at the heart of professional sport. But what about the Tottenham players and fans? They celebrated in good faith, believing they had won the trophy fairly. Now their achievement is clouded by controversy through no fault of their own. They followed the referee's decision, as players are taught to do from childhood. Should their joy be diminished because officials made an error? The bigger picture, VAR's growing pains. This incident highlights a fundamental problem with how we've implemented technology in football. VAR was introduced to eliminate clear and obvious errors, but what happens when the technology itself creates clear and obvious errors? The system that was meant to bring certainty has, in many cases, added more confusion and controversy to the game. The challenge with offside decisions involving interference is that they often require subjective judgment. Did the player in the offside position really affect the defender's ability to play the ball? Was the interference significant enough to warrant disallowing the goal? These aren't simple yes or no questions, even with video technology. Football has always involved human judgment, and perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing. The sport's beauty partly comes from its unpredictability, from the fact that no two situations are exactly alike. But when we introduce technology and tell fans it will get the decisions right, we create expectations that may be impossible to meet consistently. What Manchester United does next? The response from Manchester United's hierarchy reveals a lot about how modern football clubs handle crisis situations. Despite the controversial defeat and Amorim's strong words after the match, the club remains firmly behind their head coach. This show of support is crucial, especially after Amorim suggested he would leave the next day if ownership or fans didn't want him. The club's confidence extends beyond just backing their manager. They're already planning for the summer transfer window, with what they call a Plan B ready to reshape Amorim's squad. This forward-thinking approach suggests they're not dwelling on the controversy but focusing on building a team capable of competing at the highest level. Most tellingly, Manchester United still believes they're on track to return to the upper end of the English game soon. This optimism, despite the devastating final defeat, shows a club that hasn't lost faith in its long-term project. But will fans be as patient if more setbacks follow? The fans demand answers. Social media has exploded with demands for justice, accountability, and reform. Fans aren't just angry about one decision, they're questioning the entire VAR system and calling for changes to prevent similar incidents. Some want the goal overturned retrospectively, though football's governing bodies have consistently refused to change results after matches are completed. Others are calling for complete transparency in VAR decision-making. Why not release the audio between officials? Why not explain publicly how such a clear error occurred? In an age where fans have access to multiple camera angles and slow-motion replays within seconds, keeping the decision-making process behind closed doors feels outdated. The demand for accountability extends beyond just this match. Fans want to know what happens to officials who make such significant errors. In most professions, admitting to a major mistake that affects others would have consequences. Should football officiating be any different? Lessons for the future. This controversy offers several important lessons for football's governing bodies. First, the training and support systems for VAR officials clearly need improvement. If trained professionals with access to technology can still make such errors, the system needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Second, Communication with fans and clubs needs to be more transparent. Amorim brutally plots 11-player clear-out as Man United prepare to bin off £380 million worth of signings. Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are ready to show as many as 11 players the door at Old Trafford this summer in an effort to cut costs and aid their rebuilding plans, and with several top signings of their own having also been identified. The Portuguese coach took charge of Manchester United in November as the successor to Erik ten Hag and the first managerial appointment of the Ineos era at Old Trafford. However, Amorim's impact so far has been minimal, and the Red Devils still languishing in the same 13th position in the Premier League table in which he inherited them. With the club now destined to finish in the bottom half of the table for the first time since 1990, both minority shareholder Ratcliffe and boss Amorim have quickly realised a major rebuilding job is required at Old Trafford, both to catapult the club back towards challenging for major honours and to help bring the coach's 3-4-2-1 formation to life. As a result, the club are gearing up for what could be a historical summer on the transfer front. However, with Ratcliffe also painfully aware that United need to keep a careful eye on the books to ensure they are not in breach of the Premier League's strict profit and sustainability rules, PSR, a number of high-profile stars are also now set to be shown the door. Per the Manchester Evening News, United plan to offload 10 names this summer, with the exodus being led by 3 wingers in the homegrown Marcus Rashford, together with £85 million Antony and Jadon Sancho, who cost £73 million. The end of an era? Manchester United's bold plan to reshape their future. Picture this: it's a quiet evening at Old Trafford, and the famous stadium sits nearly empty. The echoes of glory days seem distant, replaced by the harsh reality of a 13th place league position. For Manchester United fans, this isn't just another disappointing season, it might be the final chapter of one era and the opening page of something entirely different. What if I told you that Manchester United is planning the biggest squad overhaul in recent memory? We're talking about a summer that could see 11 players walking out the exit door, carrying with them a combined value of £380 million. This isn't just another transfer window rumour, this is potentially the most significant restructuring Old Trafford has seen in decades. The new sheriff in town, Amorim's reality check. When Ruben Amorim walked through the doors of Carrington Training Ground in November 2024, he probably expected challenges. What he might not have anticipated was inheriting a squad so misaligned with his vision that a complete rebuild would become necessary. Amorim brought with him a clear tactical philosophy, the 3-4-2-1 formation that made him successful at Sporting CP. But here's the problem: when you have a square peg and a round hole, something has to give. Many of United's current players simply don't fit this system, and rather than forcing awkward compromises, the club appears ready to make tough decisions. Since taking over, United has remained stuck in that same 13th position. For a club that once dominated English football, this represents more than just poor form, it's a wake-up call that half measures won't work anymore. The financial reality, why this clear-out makes sense. You might wonder why United would sell so many players at once. Isn't stability important? The answer lies in something called profit and sustainability rules, PSR, essentially, the Premier League's way of preventing clubs from spending themselves into oblivion. Think of PSR like a household budget. You can't keep spending more than you earn without consequences. For United, this means that bringing in new players requires selling existing ones first. It's not just about making room in the squad, it's about making room in the books. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos team understand this reality. They've looked at the numbers and realised that keeping underperforming players on massive wages isn't just tactically problematic, it's financially unsustainable. The big names on the chopping block. So who exactly might be heading for the exit? The report suggests some eye-watering decisions are being considered. Marcus Rashford, the homegrown hero who once seemed destined to lead United's next generation, finds himself in an uncertain position. This isn't about his talent, which remains undeniable. It's about fit, form, and perhaps the need for a fresh start for both player and club. Antony, the £85 million winger who arrived with such promise, represents one of the most expensive gambles in recent United history. His struggles to adapt to Premier League football have been well documented, and his departure would free up significant wages while potentially recouping some of that massive investment. Jadon Sancho, another high-profile signing worth £73 million, has had a complicated relationship with the club. His talent is unquestionable, but sometimes the chemistry just isn't right between player and club. These three players alone represent over £150 million in transfer fees, not counting their substantial wage commitments. Add 8 more players to this list, and you begin to understand the scale of change being contemplated. What does this mean for United's future? Here's where things get interesting. This isn't just about getting rid of players, it's about creating space for a new vision to take shape. Amorim's 3-4-2-1 system requires specific types of players. The wing-backs need to be athletic and comfortable going forward. The central defenders must be composed with the ball. The attacking midfielders need creativity and work rate. Currently, United's squad doesn't have enough players who tick these boxes. By clearing out players who don't fit, United create several opportunities. First, they free up wages to attract players who do fit the system. Second, they generate transfer funds to reinvest. Third, they send a clear message that everyone must earn their place in this new era. The historical context: how big is this really? To understand the significance of this potential clear-out, we need to look back at United's history. The club has seen major rebuilds before. Think of Ferguson's early years when he moved on established stars to build his first great team. But an 11-player exodus would be unprecedented in the modern era. We're potentially looking at United's biggest single summer change since the Busby Babes era of the 1950s. The financial scale is equally staggering. £380 million worth of players represents more than many clubs' entire squad values. For context, that's roughly equivalent to buying 2 world-class players at today's prices. The risks and rewards. Of course, such a dramatic overhaul comes with risks. How do you maintain team chemistry when half your squad is new? How do you ensure the new signings adapt quickly enough to make an immediate impact? There's also the question of whether United can actually find buyers for all these players. Selling 1 or 2 high-profile names is challenging enough. Moving 11 players requires a level of transfer market activity that even the biggest clubs struggle to achieve. On the flip side, the potential rewards are enormous. If Amorim gets the players he needs, United could transform from a mid-table team to genuine contenders within a couple of seasons. The Premier League has shown us before how quickly things can change with the right combination of manager, players, and system. Manchester United transfer crisis. What's next after Europa League heartbreak? The final whistle echoed around the stadium in Bilbao, and with it, Manchester United's hopes of European glory came crashing down. What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into another chapter of disappointment for the Red Devils. But here's the real question: is this Europa League final defeat just the beginning of United's problems, or could it be the wake-up call that finally forces the club into the major changes everyone has been waiting for? The night that changed everything. Wednesday night's Europa League final against Tottenham will be remembered for all the wrong reasons at Old Trafford. United fans watched in frustration as their team failed to convert chance after chance, only to be undone by a scrappy first-half goal from Brennan Johnson. It was the kind of goal that perfectly summed up United's season: messy, avoidable, and ultimately costly. But the real impact of this defeat goes far beyond just missing out on a trophy. This loss has created a domino effect that will shape United's entire summer transfer strategy. Without European football next season, the club faces a financial shortfall that could reach £100 million, money that was desperately needed for squad improvements. The transfer market reality check. So what does this mean for United's transfer plans? The harsh reality is that everything has changed overnight. Just hours after the final whistle, reports emerged that the club is now prepared to listen to offers for their entire squad. Yes, you read that right, everyone is potentially available, including captain Bruno Fernandes. This isn't just about raising funds, it's about accepting that the current squad simply isn't good enough. Manager Ruben Amorim has been given a clear message from the boardroom: major surgery is needed, and it needs to happen fast. But here's where things get interesting. While United are open to selling, they still need to buy. The club has identified several key targets, and some deals are already in motion despite the Europa League setback. The confirmed targets: who's coming to Old Trafford? Matheus Cunha, the versatile forward. One name that keeps appearing in United's transfer discussions is Matheus Cunha. The Brazilian forward has been impressive in the Premier League, and his versatility makes him an ideal fit for Amorim's tactical system. Cunha can play across the front line, which gives United the flexibility they desperately need. Why is Cunha such a priority? Simple, he offers something United's current forwards don't. He can drop deep to link play, stretch defenses with his pace, and most importantly, he knows how to find the back of the net consistently. In a season where United have struggled to score goals, Cunha represents exactly the kind of signing that could transform their attacking output. Liam Delap, the future of United's attack? The second confirmed target is Liam Delap, a young English striker who has been turning heads with his performances. At just 21 years old, Delap represents the kind of long-term investment United need to make if they want to compete with the best teams in Europe. What makes Delap special? His combination of physical presence and technical ability is rare for someone his age. He's already proven he can score goals at senior level, and his work rate fits perfectly with Amorim's high-intensity style of play. This could be the signing that United fans look back on in 5 years' time as the moment everything changed. The one that got away, Viktor Gyökeres. But not all transfer news is positive for United. The biggest blow might be the likely loss of Viktor Gyökeres, a striker who seemed destined for Old Trafford just weeks ago. The Swedish international has made it clear that he wants to play Champions League football next season, and United simply can't offer that anymore. This is where the Europa League defeat really hurts. Gyökeres had worked with Amorim at Sporting CP and was seen as the perfect fit for United's new system. His goal-scoring record speaks for itself, but more importantly, he understood exactly what Amorim wanted from his striker. Now United face the painful reality of watching a player they desperately wanted choose another club simply because they can't offer European football. It's a harsh reminder of how far the club has fallen from its former glory days. The financial nightmare. Let's talk numbers for a moment. Missing out on Champions League football doesn't just mean no European nights at Old Trafford, it means a massive financial hit. The £100 million windfall that comes with Champions League qualification would have solved many of United's transfer problems. Without that money, every signing becomes more complicated. The club will need to sell before they can buy, and that puts them in a weak negotiating position. Other clubs know United are desperate, and they'll use that to their advantage. But here's the thing, United's commercial revenue is still enormous. Even without Champions League football, they remain one of the wealthiest clubs in world football. The money is there, it's just a question of how much the owners are willing to spend. The league position crisis. If missing out on European football wasn't bad enough, United's Premier League position adds another layer of complexity to their transfer plans. Finishing 16th in the league would be catastrophic for a club of United's stature, and it sends a clear message to potential signings: this is a club in serious decline. How do you convince world-class players to join a team that's struggling in the bottom half of the Premier League? It becomes almost impossible, especially when you can't offer Champions League football as compensation. This is where United's reputation and history become crucial. The club needs to sell a vision of the future, not just rely on past glories. Players want to know that joining United means being part of a project that will return the club to the top of English and European football. Amorim's vision: building for the future. Despite all the challenges, there are reasons for optimism. Ruben Amorim has a clear vision for how he wants United to play, and he's not afraid to make difficult decisions to achieve that vision. His willingness to consider selling the entire squad shows he understands the scale of the problem. Amorim's track record at Sporting CP proves he can build successful teams, even with limited resources. He developed young players, implemented an exciting style of play, and delivered results. United fans will be hoping he can work the same magic at Old Trafford. The key question is, will the club give him the time and resources he needs? Modern football is unforgiving, and managers rarely get more than a season or two to prove themselves. Amorim needs to show immediate improvement while also building for the long term. What this means for current players. For United's current squad, this summer represents a crossroads. Some players will see it as an opportunity to prove they belong at this level, while others might view it as the perfect time to move on to clubs that can offer European football. Bruno Fernandes, in particular, faces a difficult decision. As captain, he's seen as the leader of this team, but he's also at the peak of his career and might feel he's wasting his best years at a club that's going nowhere. If United receive a substantial offer for their captain, they might be forced to consider it. The younger players in the squad might actually benefit from this situation. Manchester United potential lineup, transfer targets player in player and out under Amorim season 24-25. Man United transfer news. Matheus Cunha, deadline, Victor Gyokeres claim. Manchester United transfer news with views, rumours and gossip as Ruben Amorim's men fall to a heartbreaking Europa League final to Tottenham. Hello and welcome to our latest Manchester United family news. The Manchester Evening News will have you covered at every step with gossip and rumours from Old Trafford and beyond. It's a disappointing morning for United following Wednesday night's Europa League final against Tottenham. Ruben Amorim's men failed to take their chances and fell to Brennan Johnson's scrappy first-half winner. It means there will be no European football at the club next season and no lucrative financial injection. United need open-heart surgery, and at least 2 players will be signed, but many more are being targeted. Matheus Cunha and Liam Delap are 2 known targets who look likely to arrive. However, the loss against Tottenham does strike a blow to their chances of signing Victor Gyokeres, who is understood to be keen on Champions League football. Man United player price tags emerge. Manchester United are reportedly prepared to listen to offers for their entire squad this summer, following a disappointing Europa League final defeat to Tottenham Hotspur. It is claimed this even includes captain Bruno Fernandes, who could be on the move after Ruben Amorim's Bilbao failure resulted in United missing out on the Champions League and its £100 million windfall. In addition to their European disappointment, United are also set to finish 16th in the Premier League, which could impact their ability to attract top talent in the transfer window. United could give Ruben Amorim what he wants. Manchester United may have a relatively straightforward pathway to giving Ruben Amorim some of the signings he wants and needs this summer. United now face an uncertain future in the aftermath of their defeat to Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa League final. Their 1-0 reverse in Bilbao confirmed that United will not be competing in Europe next season, missing out on qualification for the lucrative Champions League in the process. Amorim will now be preparing the United for their final Premier League fixture of the season, which will see them take on Aston Villa at Old Trafford on Sunday afternoon. After the final whistle on Sunday, attention will soon turn towards the upcoming summer transfer window and the business that United may conduct. Manchester United's 2024-25 season has been their worst in 51 years. After an abysmal Premier League campaign, which could end with them 17th, United fell at the final hurdle in the Europa League. Despite his side laying no punches onto Spurs, Amorim didn't change his team until the 71st minute with Joshua Zirkzee and Alejandro Garnacho coming on for the 2 players they probably should have started over in Rasmus Højlund and Mount. Much has been made of Garnacho's snub. The winger has publicly come out and seemingly questioned the decision for him to only get 20 minutes, while his brother has also criticised the handling of him in the final by Amorim. Manchester United dealt £85 million blow after Europa League final defeat. A football finance expert has said Manchester United's 1-0 defeat to Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa League final on Wednesday night means they will miss out on around £85 million in additional revenue. Professor Rob Wilson, Director of Executive Education at University Campus of Football Business, has outlined just how costly United's failure to get back into the Champions League will be. Having lost the Europa League, Manchester United have probably missed out on something between £10 million to £15 million in direct prize money, Wilson told Genting Casino. That was made up of around £4 million for winning the final, somewhere between £3 million and £5 million from an increased UEFA coefficient share. Then there's elements around commercial bonuses, appearance fees, match day revenues that they would have benefited from. What we then need to remember, of course, is that there will also be an offset there. So they won't have bonus payments to pay, for instance, for their player wages. So that's quite an important factor to include. The qualification that they've missed out on in the Champions League has cost them around £85 million of additional revenue. That revenue is due to broadcast, gate receipts and some of those UEFA payments. The fact that the club has missed out on that revenue is quite a blow to their budget line and will affect what they're able to do in the transfer market this summer, not just from an amount of cash perspective and what they can spend on transfers, but also the type of players they can attract as a result of having no European football given their league position. Man United set Matheus Cunha transfer deadline. The club is reportedly aware of the conditions required to trigger the clause. However, there has been no direct contact between the clubs so far, though those formalities are expected to happen once the season ends. Other clubs are also interested in Cunha, but he is thought to prefer a move to United. Man United set Matheus Cunha transfer deadline as Victor Gyökeres breaks silence. Manchester United transfer news and gossip as we take a look at latest from Cunha, Dalot, and Gyökeres. Manchester United's Europa League final defeat to Tottenham further proves that the club is in dire need of reinforcements. The defeat to Spurs marks only the second time in 35 years that United have failed to qualify for European competition and officially confirms their worst season since relegation in 1974. However, those in charge won't have to wait much longer to get their business underway, with the summer transfer window set to open on June 1st. And Ruben Amorim has already confirmed the club's stance on the market. "We have two plans even for the market," Amorim confirmed. "We need to understand that is tough for a club like us not to be in the Champions League. But we have to use the other side. We have more time to work during the week on the Premier League and that will be our focus." Liam Delap talks. TalkSport have provided an update on Liam Delap, with Newcastle United said to hold talks with Ipswich Town's in-demand striker this week. In addition to United and Chelsea, Newcastle are thought to be one of the clubs who have shown interest in triggering the 22-year-old's £30 million release clause. Meanwhile, Fabrizio Romano says the striker is still exploring his options after holding talks with Chelsea and United. In his Court Offside column, Romano wrote, "There is genuine interest from two very important clubs, Chelsea and Manchester United. Both clubs have several targets on their shortlists between them, but for sure the interest in Delap is concrete and genuine. My understanding is that Delap has spoken to Chelsea and to Manchester United, and now it's time for him to explore all the options possible. From what I'm hearing, there is also interest from clubs in the Bundesliga. Important clubs from Germany would be ready to hold talks with the player and offer him an important contract. Still, the player's priority is very clear: to stay in the Premier League, to stay in England." Victor Gyökeres blow. Arsenal appear to be in pole position to secure Victor Gyökeres' signature, especially after their defeat to Tottenham in the Europa League. The 1-0 loss meant that United missed out on a lucrative return to the Champions League next season. Here we go again. Controversy has erupted after the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur ended 1-0 in favour of Spurs, but now VAR officials have admitted to a shocking error that led to the only goal of the game. A clear foul on Harry Maguire was completely ignored in the build-up, and now the officiating body says the goal should not have stood. Manchester United fans are furious, and manager Ruben Amorim has demanded answers. Is this the final straw for VAR in European football? How many more major finals will be decided by technology gone wrong? Watch the full breakdown of the scandal, reactions from fans, and what this means for the future of the game. UEFA has acknowledged a critical VAR error during the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, which ended in a 1-0 win for Spurs. The controversial goal, potentially marred by an offside in the build-up, was not reviewed properly by VAR officials. When technology fails, the Europa League final VAR scandal that has football fans questioning everything. Picture this: you're watching the biggest match of the season, your team is battling for European glory, and in one decisive moment, everything changes. But what happens when that moment is tainted by a mistake that officials later admit should never have happened? That's exactly what unfolded in the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, and the aftermath has left the football world asking some serious questions about the technology we've come to rely on. The match that changed everything. The Europa League final at San Mamés Stadium was supposed to be a celebration of European football at its finest. Two Premier League giants, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, facing off for continental glory and a coveted Champions League spot. For Spurs fans, this represented hope after what many would call a disappointing league campaign. For United supporters, it was another chance to add silverware to their trophy cabinet. When Brennan Johnson found the back of the net to secure a 1-0 victory for Tottenham, the scenes of celebration were electric. Spurs fans erupted in joy, knowing their team had not only won a major European trophy but also secured Champions League qualification for the following season. It seemed like the perfect ending to what had been a challenging year for the North London club. But as we've learned time and time again in modern football, not everything is as straightforward as it first appears. The controversy unfolds. What should have been a night of pure celebration quickly turned into something much more complicated. In the build-up to Johnson's decisive goal, there was a moment that many viewers questioned in real time. Harry Maguire, Manchester United's defender, appeared to be on the receiving end of what looked like a clear foul. The kind of challenge that, in most circumstances, would have the referee reaching for his whistle without hesitation. Yet play continued. The ball eventually found its way to Johnson, who bundled it home to score what would prove to be the only goal of the match. United players immediately surrounded the referee, gesturing toward the earlier incident involving Maguire. Their protests fell on deaf ears, and the goal stood. This is where VAR was supposed to step in. The video assistant referee system was introduced to catch exactly these kinds of errors, the clear and obvious mistakes that change the course of matches. But on this occasion, something went wrong. The admission that shocked football. What happened next is what has truly set the football world ablaze. In an unprecedented move, UEFA officials acknowledged that a critical error had occurred during the VAR review process. The officiating body admitted that the goal should not have stood due to the foul on Maguire in the build-up. Think about that for a moment. How often do we see major football organizations admit to mistakes of this magnitude? It's rare enough when officials acknowledge errors after regular league matches, but to admit fault after a major European final? That's virtually unheard of. This admission has raised uncomfortable questions about the entire VAR system. If the technology and the people operating it can get such a crucial decision wrong in football's biggest moments, what does that say about its reliability in general? The human cost of technological failure. Behind the technical discussion about VAR and its implementation lies a more human story. Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim didn't mince words in his response to the controversy. His demand for answers reflects not just professional frustration, but the genuine emotional impact that these decisions have on everyone involved in the game. For United players, this wasn't just about losing a final, it was about losing out on Champions League qualification and the financial and sporting benefits that come with it. The difference between competing in Europe's premier competition and settling for a lesser tournament can define a club's entire following season. And what about the fans? Thousands of Manchester United supporters travelled to witness what they hoped would be a triumphant evening. Instead, they're left with the bitter taste of knowing their team was potentially denied victory by an admitted error. That's not just disappointing, it's heartbreaking. Is this VAR's breaking point? The Europa League final controversy comes at a time when VAR is already under intense scrutiny across European football. Every weekend, fans debate decisions, managers complain about inconsistency, and pundits question whether the technology is actually improving the game or making it worse. This incident might represent a tipping point. When the technology fails at football's biggest moments, it undermines confidence in the entire system. Fans begin to wonder, if VAR can't get the big decisions right when it matters most, what's the point of having it at all? The frustration isn't just about this one match. It's about the accumulation of controversial decisions, the lengthy delays while reviews take place, and the feeling that the spontaneous joy of celebrating a goal is being eroded by the constant possibility that it might be ruled out minutes later. The wider impact on European football. This controversy extends far beyond the two clubs involved. Every team competing in European competitions now has to confront the reality that their biggest moments might be decided by technological failures rather than what happens on the pitch. For Tottenham, their victory celebration is forever tainted by the admission that their winning goal shouldn't have stood. Even in triumph, there's an asterisk that will follow this achievement. That's not fair to the players who performed on the night or the fans who celebrated in good faith. The incident also raises questions about accountability. When such significant errors occur, what consequences follow? How do football's governing bodies ensure that lessons are learned and improvements are made? What needs to change? The Europa League final controversy highlights several areas where VAR implementation needs urgent attention. First, there's the question of training and consistency. If different VAR teams are reaching different conclusions about similar incidents, the system isn't working as intended. Second, there's the issue of transparency. Fans deserve to understand how these decisions are made and what factors are considered during VAR reviews. Controversy has erupted after the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur ended 1-0 in favour of Spurs, but now VAR officials have admitted to a shocking error that led to the only goal of the game. A clear foul on Harry Maguire was completely ignored in the build-up, and now the officiating body says the goal should not have stood. Manchester United fans are furious, and manager Ruben Amorim has demanded answers. Is this the final straw for VAR in European football? How many more major finals will be decided by technology gone wrong? Watch the full breakdown of the scandal, reactions from fans, and what this means for the future of the game. When technology fails, the Europa League final that left football fans questioning everything. Picture this: you're watching the biggest match of your team's season. The atmosphere is electric, millions are glued to their screens worldwide, and then, the unthinkable happens. A goal that changes everything, celebrated by thousands, only to be revealed later as the result of a critical officiating error. This isn't just any match we're talking about, this is the Europa League final, and the controversy that followed has sent shockwaves through the football world. The night that changed everything. The stage was set in Bilbao for what promised to be a memorable Europa League final. Two English giants, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, faced off in a clash that had everything: history, rivalry, and the promise of European glory. For both clubs, this wasn't just another match, it was a chance to salvage what had been challenging seasons and give their fans something to celebrate. Tottenham entered the final carrying the weight of their supporters' dreams. After years of near misses and heartbreak, here was their opportunity to finally lift a major trophy. The pressure was immense, but so was the determination. On the other side, Manchester United arrived with their own hunger for success, looking to add another European trophy to their impressive collection. The match itself was a tense affair, as finals often are. Both teams knew that one moment of brilliance or one crucial mistake could decide everything. As the minutes ticked by, it seemed like the game might head to extra time or even penalties. Then came the moment that would spark weeks of debate and controversy. The goal that started it all. In what appeared to be a routine attacking move, Tottenham managed to break the deadlock. The ball hit the back of the net, and the Spurs faithful erupted in celebration. Players embraced, fans wept with joy, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect for the North London club. The scoreline read 1-0, and that single goal would prove to be enough to secure the trophy. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. What should have been a straightforward celebration quickly became clouded by controversy. Sharp-eyed viewers and analysts began to notice something troubling in the build-up to the goal. There appeared to be a clear foul on Manchester United's Harry Maguire that went completely unnoticed by both the on-field officials and, crucially, the VAR team. How does such a significant incident get missed in an age where every touch, every movement, every potential infringement is supposed to be scrutinized by multiple cameras and experienced officials? This question would soon become the center of a heated debate that extends far beyond just this one match. The admission that shocked football. What happened next was unprecedented. In a move that stunned the football community, VAR officials came forward with an admission that sent shockwaves through the sport. They acknowledged that a clear foul had indeed been committed against Harry Maguire in the build-up to Tottenham's winning goal. More importantly, they stated that the goal should not have been allowed to stand. This wasn't just any minor technical infringement that could be debated endlessly by pundits and fans. According to the officials themselves, this was a clear and obvious error that directly impacted the outcome of one of European football's most prestigious finals. The implications were staggering. For Manchester United fans, this admission felt like salt in an already painful wound. Their team had just lost a major final, and now they were learning that the decisive goal shouldn't have counted in the first place. The sense of injustice was overwhelming, and it didn't take long for their frustration to boil over into outright anger. The manager's response. Manchester United's manager, Ruben Amorim, found himself in an impossible position. How do you respond to such a revelation? How do you explain to your players, your fans, and the media that your team was essentially robbed of a fair chance at European glory by a technological system that was supposed to ensure justice? Amorim's response was swift and decisive. He demanded answers from the officiating body, refusing to let this incident slide quietly into football history. His reaction reflected not just his own frustration, but the collective anger of everyone associated with Manchester United. This was about more than just one match, it was about the integrity of the sport itself. The Portuguese manager's demands for accountability resonated with many in the football community. After all, if VAR can fail so spectacularly in such a high-profile match, what does that say about its reliability in less scrutinized games? These are the questions that keep football administrators awake at night. The fan reaction, a community divided. The football community's response was as divided as you might expect. Manchester United supporters were understandably furious, feeling that their team had been cheated out of a legitimate chance at victory. Social media platforms were flooded with angry posts, demanding everything from the match to be replayed to the complete abolition of VAR. But what about Tottenham fans? They found themselves in an equally difficult position. Their team had won the trophy, their first major silverware in years, but now that victory was being questioned. Some argued that they shouldn't be punished for the officials' mistakes, while others struggled with the knowledge that their triumph might not have been entirely deserved. This situation highlights one of the most challenging aspects of modern football. When technology fails, it doesn't just affect the teams involved, it impacts entire communities of supporters who invest their emotions, time, and money into following their clubs. The ripple effects of such controversies extend far beyond the 90 minutes on the pitch. VAR under the microscope. This incident has reignited the ongoing debate about VAR's place in modern football. When the technology was first introduced, it was hailed as a revolutionary step forward that would eliminate controversial decisions and ensure fairer outcomes. The promise was simple: use technology to get the big decisions right. However, as this Europa League final demonstrates, VAR is only as good as the people operating it. The technology itself didn't fail, the human element did. This raises uncomfortable questions about training, protocols, and accountability within the VAR system. Critics have long argued that VAR has sucked the spontaneity and emotion out of football. Every goal celebration is now tentative, every penalty appeal scrutinized to death, and every marginal decision debated endlessly. But supporters of the system maintain that getting decisions right is more important than preserving the game's traditional flow.